Hello and welcome back to the Rugby Pod. I'm Andy Rowan. I'm here with Big Jim and Goodey. We'll be joined later in the show by Scotland and Harlequins Huw Jones to chat about their win against Leicester at the weekend. We'll also be looking back at all the action from the URC and premiership as the playoff race heats up. So settle back, enjoy, and make sure you're subscribed on Spotify.
Pod.
Rugby Pod.
How are we, guys? How's Dubai, Goodey?
I have had the best holiday. We have had the best holiday. But yeah, we've had an unbelievable week. I've eaten like a king. I've stayed in a palace. I was winning the dad bod competition around the pool until halfway through the week. And I looked up and I knew he was coming because my mate sorted him out to come here. I looked up when I'm in the pool with the kids, just looked across from the hotel, walking down was this man mountain of a bloke. And I thought, is it Jim? Could that be Jim?
Was it the Rock?
And then as it got closer and closer, basically Anthony Joshua. Oh my God, what an absolute monster of a bloke. So I thought it could have been you, Jim. And then I saw the arms and I was like, well, it's definitely not Jim. But he's got similar legs to you. His calves are tiny. So I've definitely got him on the calves, but the rest of it, he is an absolute beast. So he's been hanging out on the beach. I think he was basically trying to get away from the big fight at the weekend, the Gypsy King.
Genetics is all I'm saying about that. Did the have, tell me straight, and I know the missus is on holiday with you and she'll say that she weren't looking and she had her sunglasses on but was only looking at a book. Did he have them white shorts on?
No, he didn't. He had some big baggy shorts on. But yeah, he's got a right strut on him as well. I'm like, hold on.
Of course he bloody has. He's a multimillionaire. He's hung like an absolute Trojan. And the reason I mentioned about the white shorts, I've seen a picture in arguably one of the most incredible newspapers ever, and it was online. The Mail Online is what I'm trying to say, where he's got white shorts on, and all I can see is a helmet. I can see two legs, small calves, and a helmet. And I'm like, my goodness me, you lucky man. That's the only reason I'm asking, because when I picture him, I'd be horrified. It was bad enough with Gareth Davis in the hotel, but if Anthony Joshua was there, regardless that he's a fraud when it comes to boxing, let's get it out there. He is.
Told him as well.
Did you tell him?
Well, I said, Jim says you're a fraud. I didn't say
it.
That's
right.
He's like, who's Jim?
Put my name to that. But I should say as well, I mean, is there not a statue up of you in Nobu or not? I mean, how much fish have you eaten? I thought you like animals. I thought you like zoos and all that. Like, why are you eating all the fish?
We don't, mate, because they have to be eaten. It's not just the fish. It's the Wagyu steak, the lobsters.
A lobster's
good friends
fish?
with it. No, James, they're crustaceans. They're not fish.
Okay. Don't know what a crustacean is. Is that one of them hard things that goes in a salad, is it?
Something like that, yeah. Something like that. I'm very lucky to be good friends with the head chef at Nobu in Dubai, Damien, who is probably the only Frenchman that likes him in the world. But he's an absolute
legend. Well, that's because you're paying him £1,000 a day. That's why you're mates.
No, he looks after me very well, I must say. I'd hate to think, if I'd have got the proper bill, what it have been with the amount of food I consumed in Nobu for the 3 times we went there. But it weighs off against the missus because she just eats like vegetables. So that's nothing, isn't it? And I'm just looking at them going, you must be absolutely starving, love. Get some Wagyu steak down here with some foie gras on top or some lobster. So I dread to think there's no scales in the hotel, thank God. The weigh-in could be pretty brutal when I get home, mind.
You've said Damien's looking after you, the Nobu chef. I could potentially say that he is negligent. So there's negligence and there could be a court case looming. Just get yourself home, Andrew, is all I'm saying. Get yourself home safely and we'll get you back on that spin bike in your blue Adidas t-shirt. And hopefully, I mean, Jesus Christ, your head looks massive. Yeah, can you put weight on in your head or not?
I think so, yeah, the jowls. The cheeks and the jowls. But yeah, mate, I'm happy. We've had an unbelievable week. The girls have been very well behaved. They've loved it. And it was all about connecting again, like family time. And thank God the nanny's coming back tomorrow morning when we get back.
Jim, you had a relaxing weekend in London, didn't you, mate?
I wouldn't say relaxing. A weekend of sport with my eldest, the easiest, JJ. So we were in London at the weekend, put it all on social, of course I did. Went to Arsenal, Man United. We were pitch side. We were basically in the changing rooms. So absolutely loved doing that at the weekend. And yeah, no work, which felt a bit weird because I've woke up on Monday morning. I'm absolutely bollocks. It's probably because the flight from Luton back to Edinburgh. I mean, what an airport Luton is. My goodness me. You've got hellholes and then you've got Luton. Flight was delayed by about 2 or 3 hours from hell, coming back to heaven, and went to the Sarries extra game on Sunday. Yeah, I got leg room. JJ's at the back. He's happy. Give him an iPad. He'll sit there and he's happy to fly to Australia if he's got an iPad. His dad's fell asleep in the leg room seat, absolutely bollocksed from 2 days in London, which was all pleasure. No work, all pleasure, which was a bit of a treat. I felt a bit weird, actually, because I went back to Saracens and watched the game and I weren't working. So I felt a little bit edgy, like, should I be working? Do I need to work? No, I've earned it.
Let's talk about your positive part of the week then. Saracens, big win against the Chiefs.
Oh, didn't deserve it, did they? It was the ref. Ref won it for them, according to the Twitter monster. The Twitter monster.
Who said that?
Hey,
mate, don't be putting words in my mouth, James. At no point did I say Saracens didn't deserve it. At no point did I say
you wanted to.
The ref gave them the game and all this stuff. What I'm saying is Saracens were the better team, but they were aided at times by Craig Maxwell-Keys, who woeful he was at times. I thought absolutely woeful.
Let's get straight into the negatives.
No. Listen. First and foremost, I want to say Owen Farrell was outstanding, man of the match, quality player, back to getting near his best form. I love the way Mark McCall, and I thought about this actually. I listened to some of the interviews afterwards, and then Mark McCall was talking about his leadership and how great he is. And all I'm thinking every time someone else talks about Owen Farrell, how he rallied the troops and led from the front, all this stuff, is all the rows that you used to have with him at training gym, and his accent going, "You're fucking shite, Jim. You're fucking shite." And he's ranting and raving at all his players at Sarries. I'm thinking, imagine if Jim was on the field now, it'd be all his fault.
Well, look at us now. He's back to his very best. I'm at my very best. And I flip-flop on this a little bit because, again, going back to the football at the weekend, and I don't want to go too deep into it. I've already spoken about it before. I'm looking at Ronaldo shouting at all the players. He's shouting at everyone, like as in the ref, the players. And I'm like, maybe that is what very good players do. They just want to shout at other people when things ain't going well. But I thought Owen, I don't think he was shouting at anyone at the weekend. He was that is the best I've seen him play. Yeah. I'd say, I don't know, 18 months, 2 years. And you speak to people at Sarries, and look, this is an obvious statement. He's running the show. He is. And you look at his age profile, you look at where Marcus Smith is coming through, you look at England, you look at the captaincy that he's got, you look at his form, you look at the injuries that he's had. Like, he is a player. If anyone can turn it around, he is a player that can do it. I'm the same as you. I know he got man of the match of the weekend, but he was phenomenal. Like, in every facet of the game. And you can maybe go into a bit more detail. You didn't answer the question, Andrew. Maxwell-Keys. What's the problem?
Well, I'll come back to that in a sec, because I want to give Saracens a load of praise and credit, because people like you, Jim, think that just because I said something about Craig Maxwell-Keys' performance, I'm having a pop at Saracens, when I got so much abuse on Twitter for it. I was like, no doubt, here come the Sarries fans. I haven't taken away anything from Saracens' performance. They play well, but they got away with a lot. Ben Orr was amazing as well. He's an unbelievable player, isn't he? Absolutely class. But yeah, the breakdown, they got away with murder around the breakdown, not rolling away in the tackle. Offside lines weren't really looked at much. Listen, to be fair,
that was one. The offside, from where I was sat, Faz was offside a couple of times and it wasn't picked up, but it didn't have any influence on that phase of play. And
it does, this is the point, though. Whenever you're offside, of course it does, because as an attacking 10, and having been there, when you see that defensive line up in your face, you've got less time to make decisions. And whether you think it's got a material impact on that phase, it has a material impact on the brain of the 10 and where to attack and how to attack, because if they're getting away with it, they keep chancing it. And it's something that, every team pushes the line there, don't they, in terms of the offside line, trying to get off the line as fast as they can. Saracens deserve to win. Exeter had 60-odd% possession in that first half, loads of opportunities, took a few, didn't take them all. And against a top team like Saracens, which we know they are, if you don't take those opportunities, then they turn it around. They've got the wind. Farrell's gone nuts at them at half-time, whatever, and led from the front. He starts rocking up, making breaks. The power game comes on. Maxwell-Keys missed a few things, and everything turned in Saracens' favour, and they were fully deserved of the victory. But, if you can't see that Maxwell-Keys wasn't on the ball there and didn't have his best game, then you've got your Saracens tinted spectacles. You've got your Saracens tinted spectacles on, James. Yes.
James, you obviously didn't see it the same way.
I was there and witnessed it. I had a great seat. Of course I did. Saracens,
Tulip
legend,
Club?
they said. Yeah, of course, mate. Just with Boy George, actually.
Oh, nice. Two peas in the same pod, eh?
Yeah, don't let the sun go down on me and all that. So he was there. He was loving it. I thought Exeter, that is the most engaged I've seen them. So, look, if we give a snapshot of why they're engaged, historically, right, everything that's gone on between Saracens and Exeter pre the salary cap stuff. And then if you remember the salary cap stuff and how outspoken Baxter was and Tony Rowe, and rightly so, like it's their prerogative. Exeter were involved in them situations where Saracens won games. So there's a snapshot. Let me stumble and muffle my way through that. The big thing is that is the first time they've played at home, at Saracens, where Exeter haven't played well this season. Let's put it out there. They're fighting to get in the top four. Some idiot said they wouldn't make the top four. He could be right. Okay?
He could be.
He could be right. He could be right. Rob Baxter doesn't agree. They've obviously got 2 games left, but I'm just trying to set the scene. There was a lot of emotion in the lead up to that game. So you know that Exeter, for them reasons alone, trying to get into the top 4, that they were going to rock up, right? Add in the fact that it is Saracens, add in the fact that there's England players obviously involved and what have you. There's internationals across the board for Exeter as well. So all the emotion in the lead up to that, and you knew it was going to be a good game. Saracens, on the flip side of that, for the reasons that I've just said, you knew that this was the game. You could feel it, even in the Tulip Club, which is the corporate where ex-players go and people who own the club. It was always going to be that game. And the fact that Saracens are trying to get a home semi-final. And that was the kind of lead up to the game. And both teams, I thought, emotionally were there and physically. I thought what we saw was 2 teams that were 100% on it. And what it came down to was Exeter, in my opinion, blew a gasket in the first half. They put so much into it physically. And we know that Saracens have got the ability to do it. The guys mentioned it after the game in commentary and after the match when they analysed it. But that is the facts of it. When you've got Billy Vunipola going and going and going and going, at some point, I know he goes off, but you've got McFarlane coming on and you've got the likes of Sean Maitland, every single high ball he's going for.
Swinson, what a player.
Yeah, take him off, he missed a tackle. But I don't want to get horrible on him. But we could name the players. Aroni Maui as well on at Loosehead Prop. Loosehead Prop, I mean, where's he come from? He's come from the bloody Worcester A-League or something like that via Fiji. And you've got players like that who are next off the rank, the physicality that they've got. And Rob Baxter said it. And the facts of it are, it's all well and good rocking up for half an hour. But when Saracens are on it like that, and yes, they made a few mistakes in defence, and there's a load to work on for them. But that's the best I've seen Saracens play in terms of engagement-wise, in terms of being engaged into a game, for the reasons that we mentioned before, and the fact that Owen Farrell, you remember Maro Itoje didn't play as well, Saracens' best player. You look at the back line, world-class back line for Saracens, but that's the thing now. The worry is for Exeter is that they seem to have dropped off. I'm going to say, significantly, but like not really significantly, but in terms of Saracens, for them,
dropped off significantly for them. Yeah,
exactly. That's the exact point. Exeter, what we saw at the weekend was them physically there, mentally there, but the inaccuracies that have been there all season, like reared their head again against Saracens at the highest level at the weekend.
What did you make of Exeter picking Slade at fly half, Goodey?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Ultimately, when they had their success, Exeter, Joe Simmons was captain and fly half and playing unbelievably well. Now, this year, earlier on in the season, his form wasn't great. He got dropped and Harvey Skinner played 10 a fair bit. I played against Slade at 10 years ago when he was first burst onto the scene, and we played Exeter against Wasps at our place. And I'm like, that, my God, that is some player at 10. And then he's obviously, it was around him and Steenson. They gave him a load of goes at 10 and it didn't really work because Steenson was the 10 and the kicker and all this stuff. And obviously they fitted him into centre because he's a bit of a flair player as well, isn't he? So perhaps didn't fit the mould of, your 10, I know, in Farrell type 10 that can lead a team. He had his moments and Henry Slade had his moments at the weekend of brilliance, but he's not a controlling 10. So that's where he went away from it. And he made himself into an unbelievable centre. But I always enjoy watching play at 10. The reasons behind it, who knows? They're like Jim said, they're not at it as a team. So maybe they're trying to look at some fixes around trying different combinations to try and find that magic ingredient. I know Hendrickson and Witten playing in the centres. Was it about the power of those two? I think it possibly was. Getting two big lumpy centres in there. Obviously, Tompkins is a handful to deal with. But yeah, it's a really interesting selection. They're not at the races, and they've not been at the races all season in terms of the levels that we expect them at. Jim Hamilton called it. The same bloke that said they wouldn't make the top four, that genius, also said that Bristol would finish in the top two, and look what's happened to them this year. So there you go. But yeah, listen, Exeter, they'll bounce back. And I think Rob Baxter said it, didn't he? He had a bit of a jab after the game at some people because he said, if this is a reset season for us and we don't quite make the playoffs, there's been a load of teams that have been reset for about 10 years near the bottom of the Premiership. So quite interesting statement. I think he's getting fed up of people questioning him.
Andrew, if you actually go through the archives, I said that Bristol wouldn't make the top four as well. Some idiot said that, I'm just saying. But some other idiot who does a podcast as well, who is absolutely ginormous at the minute, also said that Gloucester would get relegated.
I didn't know. Again, Jim, stop putting words into my mouth. I didn't say Gloucester would get relegated. I think I said Gloucester would finish bottom.
Same thing.
It's not the same thing because I knew there's no relegation. But what I am going to say, I didn't mean Gloucester. I meant their neighbours, Bath, because how bad are they? But yeah, Gloucester, frustrating for them, eh?
Yeah, missed a chance. Late Bears try, put their top four chances in jeopardy, isn't it?
Good game, though. Actually, all the games at the weekend, summer rugby, I'll say it again, all the games at the weekend I thought were brilliant in terms of the tries that we scored, in terms of the skill set, and it comes down to the weather, in my opinion. I thought Bristol looked the best they've played for a long time. Ball was sticking. They were getting yards in the outside channels. So were Gloucester, to be fair. Both, when you look at it, if they were both at the top of their game, probably well matched. And I say that, I know Gloucester have got a good drive, they've got a good pack, and Bristol would like to play a little bit wider, but I thought Bristol looked very good, to be fair, and deserved the win. And there was a number of things that happened in the game that we could potentially go through, but Gloucester are still in it. Yes, they lost, but the story of Gloucester's season is when they lose, they pick up bonus points. So, like Andrew said, bottom of the league.
I meant Bath. I meant their neighbours, Bath.
He meant Bath.
Sure,
he meant Bath. But I reckon Gloucester are on for top four when I look at the season going forward for them. Lewis Rees-Zammit, I thought was excellent again. They've got a good profile in the centre with Atkinson. We've mentioned it, and Harris.
His wheels are ridiculous, aren't they? Let's go back to Rees-Zammit. I mean, he's just a ridiculous threat whenever he gets the ball. And sometimes, is it me? I watch him, right? I don't want to say this because someone will make a headline out of it, but sometimes he looks like he's a bit of a rabbit in the headlights and he just runs as fast as he can. And I mean that in the best possible way because his X factor is his speed. So he just thinks run. And that creates danger in everyone's eyes and panic around, including himself probably. But he makes unbelievable breaks and puts defenders in all sorts of trouble because they just can't lay a finger on him half the time.
It's like Johnny May. Like Johnny May when he was in his prime, that's exactly what Lewis Rees-Zammit is. I think they need to use him more. I know they brought him in the midfield and he made some line breaks off the back of that, but I think they need to use him more, like as much as they can. Yeah, I enjoyed that game because of the history of the two clubs and both teams play a bit of rugby as well. So Sam Bedlow gets red carded, rightly so. I mean, ridiculous. I mean, you can see
that, but it's the thing, you say that, it was absolutely crazy as tackle, but rewind the clock, I don't know when it was it in the first half? He absolutely smokes Adam Hastings. There's a clip going around on social media where Adam Hastings dummies to the outside, dummies to the inside, and then whammo, gets absolutely belted, the perfect tackle. And then Sam Bedlow, at the 69 minutes in, 69, he's obviously lost his head because it's the 69th minute, and takes Adam Hastings' head off. What's he thinking? Do you know what the thing I loved about George Skivington and listening to him as a coach? I know Skiv's a little bit from my playing days. He's a coach you definitely play for, eh? And you put everything into it. He said in the interview afterwards, he said, it's my fault, my responsibility. I prepped the team in that area. It wasn't good enough. But as a coach, every time I listen to him, I'd love to play for Skivs, I reckon, if I was. And I think back to some of the absolute cowboy coaches that I had in my time. And you look at some of the coaches now in the Prem, young, good coaches, you definitely want to play for them. And Skivs is top of that list, I reckon.
You have to say with George Skivington, if we're getting into it, with the squad that he's got, in how long he's been in charge of that club, he would be the coach of the season for me. When you look at the players that he's got at his disposal, if they make it into the top four, That is, he might say it, he might not say it. That is a massive overachievement for them. From where Goodey thought they were going to finish last to potentially being top 4, that is a phenomenal season. They have been the overachievers this season already, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the reason I said they were going to finish last is you look at how they finished the back end of last season with a very similar squad. They were absolutely shocking. Lost a boatload of games on the bounce because there was no relegation. It didn't mean anything. And that's why I did it. So there was a bit of reasoning behind it. But obviously, Skivs and Alex King, who's a good coach there as well, and the boys have listened to the podcast and said, we'll prove that fat so-and-so wrong. And they have.
And Goodey, Saints kept their top 4 hopes alive, coming back from 31-12 down to win at Bath.
They did. And I was flicking on the scores while I was on the sun lounger with my belly hanging out and the pina coladas coming over. And I saw that 57 minutes in, I'm like, classic Saints. You know, when they're hot, but when they're bang average, being a Saints fan must be so frustrating. But then they've scored 4 tries in the last sort of 20-odd minutes. A mad finish. Mikey Hayward scores one at the end, which was, when you look back at the try, it's the most ludicrous thing possible because they're trying to reach out to score the try. Then Rockin Naguni comes in from the side and accidentally kind of kicks the ball out of the hand. The Bath players have got the ball back and then they think it's knock on, so they just let Mikey Hayward have the ball. He dives over to score the try, goes to TMO, and everything's followed to the left of the law. And somehow, by hook or by crook, they've given the try, rightly so, to Saints for them to win the game. But yeah, it's a massive comeback for them. And that puts them in control of the top 4 now. So they've got 3 games left. They're in 4th. So they've got their own destiny in their own hands now. But 20 minutes to go, I'm just looking at them going, so much talent there, yet they've gone to Bath and we're getting hosed. They found a way. They got a penalty try. That Ludlam was unbelievable in the back row for them as well. So massive turning point. When you talk about fine margins about getting the top 4, and we mentioned Gloucester earlier losing towards the death against Bristol, to take it out of their hands. Northampton have pulled a rabbit out of the hat, coming from 31-12 down away at Bath. I know Bath are bottom of the league, so you kind of think that that there's not much to play for them. But their team looked pretty good, actually, Bath's team. And fair play, Saints stuck in there and they've got the win and they're in control of that 4th spot at the minute.
And as you said, they've got Quins this week and they bounced back. Well, Marcus Smith bounced back well after his disappointment last week, didn't he, against Leicester?
He did. And it was interesting, the battle between him and George Ford at 10, obviously. The whole England scenario. Yeah, listen, Marcus Smith missed that kick last week. It's never going to affect him ball in hand as a player because we know how much confidence he's got ball in hand. And he was brilliant in the game, I thought. The way he controlled it, they kicked a lot. Harlequins, didn't they, compared to what we thought they would, but he pulls the trigger at the right time. The battle at 10 between him and George Ford, I thought he won that hands down. Listen, you can wax lyrical about him because he's a wonderful player. And, that clutch kick that he missed, and I spoke about last week to beat Montpellier, he's the sort of player that's got that much confidence that you just move on to the next week, and he seemed to have done that at the weekend. They dominated them at set piece. Leicester, and I said it last season, when Harlequins went up to Sale, when I was commentating on the game for BT Sport at the end of the season, Harlequins changed their team completely. And people are like, it's just wrong, they shouldn't do that. They don't have the right to do that because they'd already made the playoffs. Now, Leicester are fighting on 3 fronts this year. They've got the Premiership Cup semi-final on Tuesday this week against London Irish. Obviously, they're top of the Prem. They've rotated a lot all year, and they've got the quarter-final coming up for the Champions Cup against Leinster at home. So they rested a few. Genji's put in a monstrous shift for England, and then post-Six Nations back at Leicester. They rested a few guys. Obviously, Coley's coming back from injury, and they were competitive, weren't they?
They nearly won.
Quins, yeah. Well, yeah, there's your point. And Quins were all out. That's their best team pretty much, weren't they, as far as I could see. But what Borthwick has done a lot this year, he's made changes, he's rotated. And, you talk about players. Harry Potter, who scored a wonder try last week, didn't he, against Claremont? He missed a couple of tackles this week that led to some big impacts. There's one missed tackle on Liner, which ends up leading to Esterhazen's try. So the rotation of everyone, and you can be a hero one week, you can be a zero the next in any sport. But Leicester will be, as Borth has said after the the game in his interview. I just wish he'd give a bit more Borthers, because you can see sometimes he tries really hard to crack a joke.
Absolutely nothing. Apparently, he's unbelievable on karaoke. He just literally goes from song to song, just belts them out with a cigarette in his mouth, and then he chops a bottle of whiskey and then slams it and then puts his arms in the air. Apparently, that's what he does. That's his party trick.
Yeah, I can't imagine that being the case.
What do you guys make of the incident where Dombrand was penalised for pushing Marler into contact rather than Callum Green being penalised for the high shot?
What a shit bloke Marler is, eh?
What?
Why is he pushing him?
No, Dombrand pushed Marler, you mug.
Sorry. Yeah, he would have been raging at that. Maybe Dombrand's thinking there ain't a chance that at the speed he's running, he's breaking anything. So I'll tell you what, let's let him break a leg on the way through. And we used to practice that at Saracens. So when we'd look at different things, and of course he was. He was the guinea pig. Jim Hamilton's the guinea pig. So I've got Mako Vunipola literally ragdolling me through, as in throwing me through contact. Absolutely bollocks. I can barely get down at the best of times. Well, I didn't know, because we were doing it in training, so that just in case they gave me the ball to start with. So I picked the ball up on the floor and then I'd jog, and then literally I'd get torpedoed into about 3 bags. That's how the neck that.
Well, we can have a chat now with the man of the match from that one. Quins fullback Huw Jones joins us. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, and good to be here. Thanks. Yeah, all good.
You're just getting the arms and the chest in, but not the head, right?
Yeah.
Hey, don't matter. All three look good.
I'm trying to just go here because downstairs is sloppy as fuck.
Well, the head looks great, does it, Goodey?
Dread, mate. I'm in Dubai. Fucking on holiday. Fuck off.
Class to have you, mate. Just talk us through how happy you are at the minute and what it's like playing 15. Not a position, not that I'm an expert, but I don't think I've ever seen you play 15, and now you're carving up. What's happened?
Yeah, well, I'm having loads of fun. It's great. I mean, Quins is really fun club to be a part of. We play good rugby, and 15. I mean, I'm surprised I actually played the whole of last season at 15 for Glasgow, and you were on most of those games.
Oh, God, was I?
Do you know what? I was about to say that. I thought, no, I'm gonna let Huw embarrass him.
I meant for Scotland. That's what I meant.
No, you didn't. That's how much attention Jim pays to the URC when he commentates.
Hoggy plays for Glasgow, doesn't he? Hoggy's at Glasgow. I'll take it. Keep it in. Keep going, Hugh. Keep going.
Yeah, no, it's been great actually. I mean, I don't really mind sort of where I'm playing as long as I'm on the field, which is great fun. But yeah, I get loads of ball. The kicking game is sort of new, but I kind of think that with the help of the rest of the team, we're kind of dealing with it quite well. So, and I get to attack. I sort of pop in the same sort of channels as I would if I was playing 13. So, yeah, it's great fun and I'm enjoying it.
You played exceptionally well. I've got to ask a question though. When you're doing the interview, where's the pat on the back for yourself, the other backs? You just talked about the forwards.
Humble.
I'm like,
Humble.
Come on, man.
To be fair, I mean, coming into the game, I've sort of seen in training recently in the last couple of weeks since I've been playing 15, the boys have been working actually so hard on the kind of some guys call it escort lines or cradle lines. When they're sort of running back and the kicks coming towards me. Blockers, basically. Yeah, essentially what we're trying to do is block.
Cheating.
But they've been so good at that in the last couple of weeks. The forwards sort of firing into the break, that really making it hard for the opposition kickers, which means that I get more time to catch the ball. But it's been great the last couple of weeks. So a lot of the credit does go to them. And I think the defence from our lads, the big guys defending the maul, they were incredible on the weekend. Which is a sort of obviously a big strength of Tigers. They kept going to the corner and we just sort of kept defending it well. So they were, a big part of the reason why we won.
I'll get straight into it then. Scotland, we're segueing. I'm going to get straight into it. Why not? Try and redeem myself. How are you nowhere near the mix? Do you know why? What's the reasons? I mean, and I say that because you're playing at the champion team. You're playing, in my opinion, out of position. I've always seen you as a 13. That's why for Scotland. And you're carving up and you're not in the mix. Do you know what's going on? Like, are you keen to be back in the mix, either at 15 or 30, or move Hoggy out?
I'd love to be back in the mix. Yeah, that'd be great. I was in the squad in the autumn, but didn't get a game. And I was sort of back and forth, going back on the sort of midweek to play for Quins and try and get some game time. And when it came to the Six Nations, it was kind of the same story. I was basically told that I hadn't played enough, which was fair. I'd started the season with Quins with a foot. Well, I'd come back from a foot injury in the summer, and I'd been on the bench most of the time, 10, 15 minutes at most weekends. And so it was only really sort of January when I actually started getting a few games, but it wasn't enough in time for the Six Nations squad. And to be fair, I think that was the chat I got anyway. And there were a lot of other Scottish centres who had been playing week in, week out, either Edinburgh, Glasgow, or in the Prem. And so, to be honest, it kind of worked out. I managed to get a load of games to Quins in that time. And I've sort of just kept that going, which has been great. I mean, I've absolutely loved it. I think this is the most games I've played in a row in my career ever. So I'm having loads of fun playing. Obviously, I'd love to be back in the squad with the summer tour coming up. That'd be great. But if not, I mean, it's just been great to play, to be honest.
Do you know what I find amazing there? Obviously, you've had a decent Scotland career, and hopefully there's more caps to come. Is there anyone apart from Hoggy and Finn Russell? And I was with Finn at Nobu the other night in Dubai, and he's got a harsh Scottish accent. But is there anyone? We get people on here, Scotland internationals. None of you have got Scottish accents. What's going on? We've had Ali Price on here. We've had Hamish Watson, some absolute legends, and you all speak English. You're a Millfield boy. Come on, you're English, man.
I'm more English than half the Quins squad. But no, I mean, yeah, I was born in Scotland, and I have Scottish heritage. I'm sure similar to Jim, but yeah, I think that it's true. You make a good point. There's hardly anyone. Well, a few of the lads, but yeah,
Duan's got a real mad Scottish accent.
Yeah,
as well.
you're walking around camp, and you can only hear sort of posh home counties and Afrikaans accents. And then obviously you hear Hoggy and Finn, so it's a real mix. But yeah, you need to find out who the Scottish accents are and then get them on the pod.
Yeah, there's not many. If you go down the list, there's not many, and we're not allowed to chat to Finn and Hoggy at the minute because they went and had a beer, and you're not allowed to have a beer, so we can't have them on. Let's just talk about what it was like playing for Scotland, Huw, because I'd say you mentioned you played 15 for Glasgow. I completely forgot about that because for me, you're synonymous with that game against England, right, where you had the 13 on your back, but more than that, but as in, like, that was the game where I was like, Jesus Christ, this kid is proper. Just give us a kind of flavour of what it was like playing in that 13 jersey when Finn was in the form that he was in. It was, in the lead as well to the Lions tour, and lads had their eyes on that, and you were basically carving up on them overs lines and just ripping every team to shreds.
Yeah, it was great. I think you mentioned sort of Finn being on form there. I think the whole team, we were on great form sort of that period of time. But yeah, I mean, it was loads of fun. We wanted to play fast, attacking rugby. We wanted to sort of run from anywhere, and it suited the players that we had. I think, sort of looking back at some of those games, I think Barks was in the form of his life at the time.
He was all right.
Yeah. Him and Hamish were getting turnovers all the time.
Swinno as well.
Yeah, true as well. Yes, Swinno was unbelievable. Still doing the job as well at Sarries.
Nah, he struggled at the weekend. He missed a tackle. I saw him miss a tackle. He's good.
Yeah, so it was just, we were having loads of fun throwing the ball around, and it was cool. I was obviously a bit younger there, just playing off instinct most of the time. Just give me the ball and I'll see what I can do. But yeah, it's cool. I was thinking about it, and it's one of those. I'd look at myself now and think I'm probably a better player now than I was then, just through experience and sort of knowing the game better. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to sort of get back in the Scotland shirt and be able to do that sort of thing again.
Yeah, I did an interesting interview with Mike Brown for Rugby Pass, and one of the big things he spoke about was under Paul Gustard or coaches that they've had before, and you look at last season, obviously Guzzy going then going on to win the league, was how player driven it was and how the players like Marla and Danny Kerr and these lads all stepped up. Have you, like when you're in that environment compared to being in the Scotland environment, is there a difference in terms of how the players are accountable and how much say they have? I mean, when I was at Saracens, like that was the big kind of shock for me, was how much voice and how much power the players had. I get the impression that potentially with the characters at Quins, that's the same, is it?
Yeah, certainly is. A lot of what we do is player driven, and any sort of decisions that are made, that sort of leadership group of sort of Danny, Joe Marler, Alex Donbrandt, Stefan Levis and Marcus, they're all sort of consulted on that and they help to make decisions. So whether that's just around sort of the training, structure of the week, and plans going to the game. So it does help when you're in sort of big games like that and you have already proven leaders like that on the field that don't need messages from the coaching box and that can sort of make those big decisions in a game, because they're doing it all the time. They're doing it every week. So yeah, a lot of what we do is player driven, and it's good. I mean, these guys have been around for, I mean, barring sort of Marcus and Dom, like they've been around for years, and so they know exactly what they're doing. They've been in environments, good and bad, and so they know what works for the guys, and it's great. Yeah.
Just on that, does it get heated? Because we were talking again before you came on about Saracens, and when I was at Saracens with Owen Farrell, he'd be shouting at me because he thought I was shit, and I was shouting at him because he thought I was shit. But I look at that compared to other clubs that I've been at, and like, yeah, both very true. In hindsight, very, very true. But does it ever feel uncomfortable in that environment? Because I'm talking about an elite team now in terms of yourself, Quins, who want to win the league again. Like, is there ever that you've got someone like Joe Marler, who's an interesting character, who could probably blow up at any point? You saw his emotion before the game against Leicester at the weekend. Like, does it ever get a bit kind of uncomfortably heated, but that's a positive for a champion team?
Not really, no. I think obviously, you know, like he's a loud character and he'll say what he's thinking, but I wouldn't say it's ever, I mean, not this season anyway, it's not been heated at all. I think a lot of the big conversations probably go on behind closed doors. I'm not privy to, I'm not involved in these leaders meetings. So I think a lot of the big decisions get made there. And then when we do go out to train, I think the plan has already been set, and we just follow through with it. I mean, the rest of us, we just get told what to do and we do it, whether it's by the coaches or by the leaders. But yeah, those conversations they have, I'm not sure what goes on in them. But I mean, I'm sure they do have good discussions and probably disagree a lot of the time. But they come out of it with a clear plan of what we're doing. So yeah, usually it's fine.
And looking from the outside, I'm looking at your back line, obviously, Danny Kerr, Marcus Smith, Esther Hayes in the centres, Joe Marchant, Lewis Liner, Caden Murley, yourself, there's Tyron Green. Basically, it looks like a hell of a lot of fun to play in that back line. Do you go out training, you see the boys practicing their goose steps? Is there a goose competition? It must be so much fun just chucking the ball around with those lads day in, day out, eh?
Yeah, we do. We have loads of fun. I mean, yeah, you name the player, like there's so much quality there. Like Andre is just, like we say every week, but he is just a cheat code. Like he's so good. And like the rest of the boys, like Liner's rapid. Caden, I don't know how Caden's not near the England squad.
It's ridiculous,
like, yeah, he's so good every single week, but never gets like any of the credit for it, really.
His quads as well. Do you stroke his quads?
Yeah, well,
they're massive.
Yeah, and always shaved and lovely. Yeah. But yeah, no, we have great fun in back sessions. Like the lads are skillful, especially now. Like the sun's been out. I mean, it's not raining anymore. We hated it during the winter because like it's not that good. But yeah,
indoors,
when
indoors.
Yeah, dry ball. It's brilliant. We sort of have little competitions in training. We do sort of a lot of drills where you'll find yourself in one-on-one situations and trying to defend someone like Tyrone Green is near on impossible. But yeah, like it's good because the boys get to practice those sorts of skills that you then see on the weekend, and beating defenders, just sort of running rings around guys a lot of the time. So I'm not talking about myself, I'll just sort of give the ball to these guys. But yeah, like it is a lot of fun. But yeah, we have a great time.
You mentioned Danny Kerr and the influence that he's had in the team. He's been one of the sort of form players of the premiership this season. Are you surprised like he's not in the mix with the England squad as well?
Yeah, I guess so. I think he's certainly got the quality and he's got on form enough to be sort of in that mix. I don't know whether because of sort of age or whether like his time is done. I don't know whether it's his choice or not, or whether it's Eddie Jones's choice. But yeah, I think he's certainly one of the form nines, if not the form nine in the Premiership at the moment. And if you pick the England squad based on form, then he'd certainly be in it. But yeah, I don't know sort of the goings on there and behind the scenes what the chat is between them. So, but certainly, yeah, I mean, he'd be my nine. I'd pick him. So
you'll be able to answer this though. If you don't know behind the scenes what's going on there, you'll know the answer to this. Has he had his lid done or not?
I can tell you he has, Jim. I've told you that before.
Well, I just want to hit off his team, mate. Are you allowed to share that? I'm sure he has.
I think he has. I'm not sure. I've actually never asked him. I think he has.
Good teammate.
I don't know.
Good teammate. Good
I
teammate. Is he
might
still
be completely wrong? There's a few lads that have.
Who?
Yeah.
Can you give us a snapshot? Because if there's a few lads, he'll fall into that mould because we think he has.
Andre's had his done.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah,
it's not the best job, though, is it?
He's going to hit me tomorrow. Yeah, he's had his done. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, maybe not at the club. There's a few boys that probably need to get it done. But then there's a lot of lads that just have accepted baldness with good grace. I mean, James Chisholm's and Tom Laudays, they went years ago. Sinner's gone. Yeah.
Jim, you've gone as well, haven't you, Jim? You've got the cap on now to cover it.
I'm all right.
Have you had that done?
No, I haven't. If the media carries on, then potentially I might need to. So I was chatting to Boy George at the weekend, and he was bold. I was thinking, can I pull that off? Need a bit of eye mascara. You never know.
One of the other things I just want to ask you about Danny Kerr. Is Danny Kerr still calling himself the talisman?
I've not heard him say that, but I'll ask him tomorrow.
Go into training tomorrow and call him Tallies, and he'll be like, "Where's that come from?" So I was on the pod with the lads. That's what he used to call himself at England training. The Tallies.
Yeah. Huw as well. I don't know whether you can answer this or you'll know the insight to this, but he's a forward. So same name as you. Huw Tizard going to Saracens. For me, he is up there now, one of the best second rows in the Prem. I've been so impressed with him. Has he been getting a bit of stick? Is there a regret that he's leaving? There must be, surely.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, he's been brilliant this season. I didn't see sort of many. I didn't watch a lot of rugby last season of his, but so I didn't know how he was. But in terms of like a breakthrough season, I'm sure this has been massive for him. And I can probably guarantee that the club might regret letting him go because like he'll kick on and he'll be brilliant. He'll play for England definitely.
Great.
He's a big lump. He's hard to tackle. He rides tackles well, which is good. Sort of he's good in contact and he's pretty skillful as well. But yeah, I think he does get a bit of abuse from the boys about going to Sarries. It's obviously a rival club, so I think Joe Marler gets into him daily about it, calls him a scumbag most training sessions, which is well, it's a joke, but it's also not a joke because yeah, he's going to probably our big rivals, but yeah, I think he'll be great there. He might even miss the Quins way because he does have license to chuck the ball around, and Saracens probably slightly more conservative the way they play than we are. But yeah, I'm sure he'll do really well there because he's a brilliant player.
You know, Joe Marler tried to go to Saracens.
No,
I didn't know that, but I'll mention that.
Yeah, just mention to him. We'll make a headline out of it. We're that influential that we'll just say that he did. I'm sure he rang up Edward Griffiths and said, "I'm desperate to come because Quins going to get relegated." I think he might have.
Huw, thanks very much for coming on, mate, and best of luck for for the rest of your first ever season playing fullback.
Thanks very much. Yeah, cheers.
Top lad.
I'm going to say it. He is a top lad, and we'll get into How embarrassing are you, Jim? You know, I've never known you to play fullback in all my life. Yet I
Out of champion club.
You didn't say that. You commentate. You must have done.
I was stuttering.
Nah, you must have done about 10 Glasgow games last season where he's done in the 15 jersey. I've never seen you play fullback in all my life. What a bloke, though, eh? Lovely Scottish accent on him as well, eh?
Yeah, lovely bloke. Yeah, he ain't a 15, in my opinion, for Glasgow.
What are you on about?
For Harlequins, but for Harlequins, he bloody well is. And I've just got it in my head, like in a 13, he was one of my favourite players for Scotland, like in terms of this modern group of players coming through. And I know it's not a one-trick pony, but in my mind, that overs line that he runs or ran when he was playing 13 and Finn was at 10, I don't think there was a better combo at that time at 10 and 13 in the world. And I want to see him back in the Scotland jersey. I know there's this whole thing with Scotland around the centres. We've mentioned Rory Hutchinson's been carving up for Northampton. He's nowhere near it at the minute. Tupolotu, he was one of the guys that went out for 1 or 2 beers and then got dropped out of the squad. They wanted to get him capped. Sam Johnson as well. Chris Harris, obviously at 13 now, playing well at Gloucester. But I think with a player, and depending on what happens with Finn, if he decides to go to the World Cup, I'm not saying that he's not going to go to the World Cup, but if something happens with Finn, right, and they put a Blair Kinghorn at 10, would there be an opportunity for someone like Huw Jones, who they now know can play 15, to be able to be a utility back involved? I'd like to think so. So I'm glad to see him carving up, and what an engaging fella, right?
Yeah, great guy. And you talk about Finn. I met him in Dubai. We had a few drinks together in Nobu, and he told me a few things, James.
What did he say?
Wow, he told me that you're hung like a squirrel for real. I said, mate, I know that anyway.
He's a liar, mate. He only saw me after the game where we played, and it was minus 35. So that's not a reflection on any human being. What was he like? Was he training?
Yeah, great fun,
actually. He texted me and said, I'm going to train with Goodey. I said, you're not. And he said, no, I'm joking. I was like, you got me there.
Well, we did train. We trained how much we could drink on one night in Nobu. He was there with his missus. I was there with my missus, and me and Finn. We just spat ruggers, mate. We were just chatting about ruggers and what happened behind the scenes with Scotland a couple of times. And
who's got the biggest Louis Vuitton bag? Who's got the biggest Uchi trainers or whatever?
Yeah,
very similar. You two very similar. Yeah.
He was telling me about his Lambo. No, it's good fun actually. Good couple of beers with him. Nice lad. Tells it as it is as well. My kind of bloke.
Well, let's take a look now at the URC. And Jim, you were commentating at the weekend, weren't you?
I was on Friday. Failed to mention that actually, with all the hysteria. So it was rugby, football, boxing, rugby. What a life. Stormers making a run for it, aren't they? Making a run for not only the top 8, but the top 4 as well, to get a home quarter final. And the Stormers are the team, right, that everyone's looking at. I know the Sharks are a team as well, which have got the potential to do something in the URC, whether or not they can do it this season. # always Edinburgh. Beat them over there. And we're thinking, actually, the Sharks at the races. And we'll come on to that game because they beat Leicester at the weekend. But I did Stormers Glasgow at the weekend. And in the end, if we're speaking frankly, it was a humping against Glasgow. 32 points to 7. I don't know how much you've seen the Stormers. Can they do it in terms of doing something? Can they win the URC? And I know I mentioned on here it could be in South Africa. It's been confirmed now that it's not going to necessarily be in South Africa. It will be whoever tops the highest points after the semi-finals. You can work out the Da Vinci Code, but basically it's going to be in Leinster. It's going to be in Dublin. Yeah, it's going to be in Dublin, but it isn't going to be in Dublin if you look at it on paper. But basically, if you turn the page, on that page, it says Dublin. It says Leinster. And when you're looking at the URC, it's been a foregone conclusion for Leinster winning it the last 4 years in a row, and you're thinking, here we go again. Can the South African teams compete? Well, I saw enough in their game against Glasgow to give you a kind of maybe. I don't think they're good enough to beat Leinster if Leinster are full noise. But then that takes you forward now to next week's game where Stormers play Leinster. Leinster ain't going to go full noise, are they? Because they've got the European game against Leicester the week after.
Yeah, and we spoke about it, Jim. You said last week that, the Leinster have got these big 2 games, and then lo and behold, the next day they flew out all the Shags, didn't they? And all the big dogs stayed at home.
And nearly beat the Sharks. So that makes a bit of a mockery of it, if you're asking me. I don't think that's what, as fans, you want to see. Leinster, yes, it doesn't matter if they lost to the Sharks, could have won that. If they lose to the Stormers, they're probably still going to top, or they are going to top the URC. And then it comes down to obviously the knockout stages where a Stormers, and we can come on to the Munster and Ulster game, both teams playing really well this season, could potentially beat them in a one-off game. But I would love to see a Leinster team fully loaded down in South Africa, but we're just not seeing that, unfortunately.
Do you see the Sharks going a bit further in the competition as well after their win against Leinster?
Yeah, they've got Matt Pimpey. They've got Siya Kolisi, obviously. Not just Siya Kolisi, the Siya Kolisi. Yeah, that's right. The Springbok captain, Siya Kolisi. So they've got some big names across their team. Not Shea as well, Springbok prop. They've got Ebenezer coming next season. Not that that matters about this season. But from what I've seen, I don't know. I know that they're creeping up the table and they're looking to get in a home quarter. I just don't know. That win against Leinster at the weekend, you look at the Leinster team, no disrespect to Rhys Ruddock, who was captain at the weekend. Yes, the names you would potentially know, but if you're a casual fan, you're looking at that and thinking it is, like Goodey said, Leinster's second team. And if the Sharks, and they could have lost that game at the end of the match, if they're just scraping through a Leinster second team at home, at what point are you thinking they're going to compete when Leinster are fully loaded? So I like Sharks. They're a team that, I'm similar to you, Goodey. You played over in Natal. I played for the under-21s when I was a kid. They've got.
I played for the Sharks, mate.
Yeah, I know you
Sharks.
did. Yeah, you took Dan Carter's head off. We saw it. Embarrassing.
Cleaned it. No.
Legend.
Yes.
Legend. Sorry, legend. But the South African teams are coming good now. That's what I'm trying to say. But I don't know whether I've seen enough yet to see if they can compete with Leinster and also a Munster and Ulster if they're fully loaded and they're at home.
It could come round to the last game of the season to find out who finishes in that fourth spot, which gets the home quarter final. Ulster against the Sharks. And then they might play them the week after as well in the quarterfinal. So the South African teams are always going to come good towards the end of the season with the internationals playing. It's the way they've always done it around their Super Rugby and what they consider of their season with all their top tier internationals playing. And Stormers, the Sharks will be dangerous. You play anyone in South Africa, and we've seen it. I know Connacht beat the Lions this weekend over there, but Jim's mentioned it on here about 20 times. Edinburgh have been the only team to beat a South African team at home until Connacht did it at the weekend as well. So they're tough to beat over there. If they get a home quarter final and a home semi, which the Stormers might, it's going to come down to a one-off game, and Leinster have probably got too much because they're the Ireland team, right?
Look at you, Goodey, getting into the URC.
I love it, mate. When your team's involved in the Sharks, business end, I might give Premier Sports a ring because I play for the Sharks. So obviously, there's that relationship there. Maybe there's some TV work to be had out in South Africa. Basically, what I'm saying is I want to go back to Durban for a few days and leave the missus and the kids at home after this holiday.
It was a big win for Munster, wasn't it? At Ulster, Jim. You mentioned it.
Well, it was. It was.
Graham O'Rowntree. He said it, didn't he, on the pod last week? Graham O'Rowntree said it was a massive game. They've moved on from the Exeter victory in the Champions Cup, but they had a massive test. And he was right, wasn't he? It was a huge test. Ulster, obviously off the back of disappointing performance against Toulouse the week before. All these games are pressure games now to get to the knockouts and the jostling around the home quarters, etc., etc. And Munster coming into some good form. And finally, he got the gig. He came on the pod. He's the boss. They win at Ulster. They haven't done that for a long time. Graham O'Rowntree, you are a legend.
Yeah, and Ulster did go full noise, Andrew. And I think we might have said it last week. Off the back of two tough games against Toulouse, it's going to be hard to back it up when you've lost. And we know how good it is going to the Kingspan. We mentioned it. And I think the headline out of that starting team for Ulster was Mike Lowry going in at 10. I don't know what's up with
this week
at the minute.
Better this week, Jim, with that.
It was better. It's
been a work on.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't have ever been a work on because I've nailed it every single time until he came on and started shaking. So,
what's wrong with you and guests like this week? Huw Jones, I've never seen you play fullback ever.
Did I say?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Are you Harry Enfield or what?
Mate, when I heard you say it, I'm like, please, if he doesn't rinse you, I'm definitely going to rinse you because I've only played fullback.
I quite enjoy that. I quite enjoy being as in making mistakes. I think I'm like Tyson, aren't I? Like he goes out, cheats on his missus, as in all them. He's made mistakes.
What?
It's jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
Lads, we've got a new segment.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, we're going to try a new segment. It's inspired actually by the Graham Norton show. I was actually on that a few years ago where I sat in the.
Oh, let it go.
feature.
Oh,
Let it go, Andy
It's just
Rowe. You
me
make it about you
reliving
again.
reliving the moment. What we want is for you at home to send us a short story, a couple of minutes max. Then we'll pick out the best one each month or the best few each month. Then you'll come on the pod live and tell the millions. But if your story is shit, you're going to get cut. You're going to get tipped like you're on the red chair. All you got to do is send a short audio note to us at our Rugby Pod social channels, any of the social channels, or you can WhatsApp it to our UK number 07 506 000 727. That's plus.
Hey, that's my number. That's my number.
Hey.
That's right. Just send it to Jim. +44 if you're outside of the UK. Thanks, Goodey. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, producer Tristan. And thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube and make sure you're subscribed on Spotify.
Rugby Spod.
Spotted pod.